Let's record.
There we go.
God, I got like a computer voice telling me that. That was exciting. Hi.
Full screen. Hi.
How have you been?
I've been all right. How you been? What grade are you guys all in now?
I'm a senior.
You're a senior.
Maddie and I are seniors. We're the co-editor-in-chiefs, and everyone else here is sprinkled along the 9 through 12 scene.
Very good. Very good. I was looking through your Instagram account. I like the different things that you've got going on.
Thank you. Thank you. We have someone that takes care. How am I suddenly going blank on her name? Oh my God. Ella.
That's me.
Right? Yeah, Ella. Yeah, there you go. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Ella takes care of the Instagram. It's amazing.
Very good.
Yeah, she eats it up. I'm not a teenager, so I'm really bad with Instagram stuff. So we delegate all the work to Ella. Shout out to Ella.
Amen.
Yes,
Ella, we trust.
for real. Should we get started? I was thinking that Maddie and I can introduce ourselves, and if anyone else wants to say anything, feel free. And then we'll give you like a big formal segment of time for you to introduce yourself and all the awesome work you've done. That's so much cooler than any of the work that we've ever done. And we can go into the interview questions.
Well, considering that I'm between 35 and 40 years older than some of you, hopefully I will have done some more things. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of time.
Hey, you've made good use of it. I can start off. Hey, I'm Maddie. I go to boarding school, hence the roommate. I'm a senior in high school, and I am. Oh, hang on. Let me admit, Sarah. I'm a senior in high school, an editor-in-chief of the Milking Cat. I've been writing for the Milking Cat for about 2 years now, which is pretty cool. Just posted something new about football and how I identify each football team, which I think gives a good summary of also who I am as a person, that I can sum up every football team in a not very good pun. So that's a pretty good indication of me. Natalie, do you want to
go? Sure, but I think you undersold yourself. Maddie is actually going to study comedy in college, which is pretty cool.
That's true.
Where?
Emerson. Emerson.
Oh, very good.
Emerson up in Boston.
Emerson has a very rich comic tradition. Lots of stand-ups come out of there. A lot of TV people.
Yeah, that's the dream, is to write for a late night show of some sort. So hopefully that kind of helps me out with that.
Very good. Nice.
Awesome. Hi, I'm Natalie. I'm obviously another co-editor-in-chief for the Milking Cat, and I'm from Texas. I'm a senior at Phillips Exeter Academy, which is a boarding school in New Hampshire, and I'm an incoming freshman at Harvard, not studying comedy, but will hopefully make the Lampoon at some point. So, let's see, what else is there about me?
Cambridge also has a very hot stand-up scene.
Oh, yeah.
As does all of Boston.
I'm excited because
above the Chinese restaurant. That's the big one.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
Yeah.
Do you know the name?
I'm sure if you Google like comedy space above Chinese restaurant, you'll find it. I just can't remember right now.
That would be an awesome name. If I ever open up a comedy shop, I'm naming it that. That's awesome.
It has to be like above a Mexican restaurant, though.
That's funny.
Like the place named above the Chinese restaurant can't be above a Chinese restaurant. It's got to be like above a Mexican restaurant.
You see, I'm Guatemalan, so I should make my own Guatemalan like empanada type shop, and then have a place above. That'd be perfect.
There you go.
Best of both worlds.
Yes, exactly. Some other fun facts about me is that I have IBS and I play lots of sports.
And do those sort of conflict with each other sometimes?
Oh yeah. Violently so.
My condolences. Unless that's fun.
I'm someone who likes to challenge myself, so I think it's just another challenge. And
you squeeze, right? Just kind of slench it in there.
Nevertheless, she persisted.
I like that.
Good.
Alrighty. Does anybody have any burning introduction that they have to do, burning fun fact that they want to get out into the world? The floor is open for the
All
staff.
shall be revealed.
Any
All shall
political
be-
propaganda?
Say what?
Any political propaganda that needs to be shared immediately?
Oh, no,
Hmm.
not for me.
Yeah.
My,
I
my
usually
dog is really loudly slurping her water right now. So if you're hearing like a lapping, it's not the ocean.
Well, now that we're
My
talking,
husband just got home and is making food for himself.
ooh, nice.
Okay.
Now that
Julie's
we're
all done
talking,
slurping her water, so I think we're good.
do you want to introduce yourself real quick and kind of tell us
Sure.
what you do?
Sure. So my name is Colleen Werthmann, and I am a writer. I have been a comedy writer professionally for about the last like 18 years. And before that, I was an actor. I did a lot of theater, a lot of experimental theater in New York. I grew up in St. Paul, Minnesota. I went to Catholic school from like 1st through 12th grade, including 4 years of all girls Catholic high school, except then my senior year, we merged with the boys' school. So then it was co-ed. And then I went to NYU for undergrad, where I majored in drama. And I got a minor in liberal studies, which is a sort of interdisciplinary mishmash of like psychology, lit crit, like your basic sort of, you know, sophisticated liberal arts, whatever, media crit, all kinds of stuff like that. I live in Inwood. I've been married for 15 years. And then we were dating for like 6.5 years before that. We have a 11-year-old doggy named Julie. She's a rescue sweetie. And she's black and white. She's a Hound Pity Dalmatian mix. Okay, so writing wise, my first professional, like, okay, I gotta back up a little bit. When I was like in my 20s, I wasn't working as much as I wanted to as an actor. Like I was going on auditions and I was just like not booking stuff and I was frustrated. And I had this roommate at the time, who I was also doing theater with, but he decided to make a solo show and he had so much fun doing it that I was like, man, I should do, well, you know, I can't do that. I'm not really a writer. Like, and like I had always been told I was good at writing, but I didn't really like it because it's like lonely. I much preferred like doing plays and things that were like social. So anyway, then I started making solo work for myself and I really loved it because I knew exactly how I wanted to do it and I could do it that way. And I could tell the stories that I wanted to tell. I actually made a solo show about high school. It's called Catholic Schoolgirls Rule, which is a song by the Red Hot Chili Peppers from like 100 million years ago. But anyway, it's a tongue-in-cheek title. So that was the first one I did. Then I did a couple more after that. I started writing through like friends I met. I started writing for this online / quarterly literary journal called McSweeney's, which still exists. But I was in there in like the first few the first few episodes, issues. And through that I met all these different kinds of writers, like, you know, novelists and like critics and essayists. And I just was like, wow, I really like writers. And so by this time, this is like my late 20s. Okay. And because I wrote for that magazine, McSweeney's, at the time there was this late night show called Late Night with David Letterman. And he's like not on the air anymore, but like when his show started, when I was in high school, it was huge. It was like extremely subversive. And like, if you look at early Letterman stuff and like, if you want to, you can go on YouTube and like, look at early, like it's crazy stuff. And it's super funny and very surrealist and insane. And like, you know, a lot of the wackier stuff that happened in late night, like at Conan and things like that, owe a lot to what David Letterman did, who actually owes a lot to even earlier TV hosts, including this guy, Jack Parr, who was the first host of The Tonight Show, like in the 50s, but I digress. So David Letterman reached out to McSweeney's writers and was like, hey, you know, we're looking to hire a writer. You know, we'd like McSweeney's writer to submit. So I was like, awesome, great. So I wrote a packet. I really didn't know what I was doing. It was like 2 top 10 lists, which was like one of their refillable features, kind of like a refillable is also called a recurring segment. It's sort of like thank you notes on Fallon, or like in the year 2000 on Conan, if you guys remember that. Anyway, it was a couple top 10 lists, and then a bunch of ideas for like field pieces or desk bits, or, you know, stuff you could do with the audience. And I thought it was pretty funny, and I sent it in, and it got down to like me and 2 guys, and they hired one of the guys. And I was like, well, I guess that was my chance. Like, I was so dumb. I should have been like, hey, please, you know, like, keep me on your list. I would love to submit again. I would love another chance. But it didn't even occur to me to do that. So I was like, okay, back to theater. But after that, I always like had this little kind of mini dream of like, oh, someday I would really love to write for a late night show. Anyway, so, okay, now it's like, whatever, I'm like 30, I'm doing more like regular plays, not really doing so much solo work. I'm doing like off-Broadway things at like Playwrights Horizons and the Public Theater, these like big theaters in New York, blah, blah, blah. I got to do a little bit of TV and movie acting. Like I was on an episode of The Sopranos, which was really fun. I did an episode of Sex and the City, which was really fun, and some other stuff. So, okay, through like basically a bizarre chain of life circumstances, a really close friend of mine who worked at the New Yorker magazine, doing like the Talk of the Town, she was like an editor for the Talk of the Town thingy, and a fact checker, and she did the art section. She met and started dating and eventually married Steve Martin. And through her, I got to know him a little bit. And which was totally weird and like insane feeling, because he's obviously like an iconic comedy legend.
He's
And,
Steve Martin, you know?
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that. I'm not going too far out on a limb when I say it was like weird to go over to their house. But like, I was just like, just be normal, be chill. Like, I'm sure the last thing he wants is somebody like fangirling out or like being weird. Be cool, Colleen. So I tried to be cool. And eventually he recommended me for this job writing on this website that no longer exists. This was from like 2006 to 2008 that I worked on. It was called 23/6. It was kind of like, do you guys know what Spy Magazine is or was? Yeah. Okay. So it was like this satirical, like pop culture and politics thing that was like in the late 80s to kind of like the mid 90s, I want to say. And they did a lot of stuff that's really common now on the internet, like Separated at Birth, where they would do like 2 celebrities who look exactly alike, or like an animal and a celebrity, or a whatever. And they would do these like pretty merciless takedowns of people, and like the royal family, and like the Trumps, like before Donald Trump was ever involved in politics, when he was just like a real estate scumbag in New York. They would do high society takedowns and all kinds of stuff like that. Hey, babe. Thank you. I know. He's cooking dinner.
Love of your life.
Yes, he's going, love of my life, love of your life. So 23/6 was sort of like that for the web. And he recommended me to Ariana Huffington, who was starting it, of Huffington Post. It was like an offshoot of Huffington Post, because he knew her. But I still had to do a packet and stuff, but they liked my packet. They liked what I submitted, and I got hired, and I worked there. And it turned out to be this kind of amazing farm team of like all these really good comedy writers. There was like Lori Kilmartin and Bob Powers and Gabe Delahaye, who's now a writer on, I want to say like The Great North or Great White North, that show. A sitcom writer named Daly Hager. Brett Gelman and John Daly did stuff for us. John Glazer did stuff for us. And it was so much fun. I loved that job, and it made no money. And like the parent company that owned it, basically, like I got fired in the 4th regime change. And then like it folded like 6 months later. So by now, okay, we're at like 2008, right? That was the year I got married. Then the like big recession happened. I have like no money, like no one knows what's going on. It's total chaos. And Steve Martin emails me and he's like, hey, I'm gonna host SNL in a few months. Would you like to write some jokes for me for my opening monologue? And I was like, and I said yes. Can you imagine if I was like, I don't feel like it.
It's not, I'll have to see if I can fit it in.
Yeah.
I'm a little busy right now.
Exactly. So I worked really hard on it. And he had 2 other writers he was working with who have written for him for ages and ages and, collaborated with him. And they were extremely welcoming and they did not need to be because I was like the wife's friend. And so I totally felt like, oh my God, yikes. But they were super friendly and nice to me. And Steve was really happy with my stuff. And I just fell in love with the art of joke writing then, because I realized that like you can pack such a big world into such small sentences. And like the smaller they get, most of the time, the better they become, which is really wonderful. And something that I always try to remember when I'm writing jokes, like, let's get down to business, So, I got to go to SNL with my husband and we sat up in the balcony and, at the taping. And I had this like out of body experience where I was like, oh my God, I thought a thought and I typed it into my computer and then I sent it to him and he's saying the words out of his mouth and the people are laughing out loud. Just lost my mind. It was awesome. And like a third of the monologue was jokes that I wrote. So it was super fun. This is like February 2009. So like a year and a half, 2 years later, Steve was doing the Oscars with Alec Baldwin. Yeah, this is like 2010. And I was like, okay, well, I'm sure if he wants me to write for him again, he will ask. Like, I didn't want to be tacky. He'd already been very nice to me in many ways. Like, I was like, okay, we'll just, but sure enough, he did. Actually, initially not. But there turned out to be an opening. The world of awards show joke writing is like very, very small. At least it was at the time. Now it's a little bit more open, but it's basically like the same, 20, 30 people write basically all the award shows. That's how it was at the time. But Alec Baldwin had picked these 2 guys who wrote for him for 30 Rock. But those guys were in production at the time. So they turned out to be just like too busy and they kind of dropped out. So there was like they wrote as a team. So there was basically like one salary available. And Steve was like, well, let's get Colleen. So basically my first like proper Writers Guild television credit was writing for the Oscars, which to me felt like starting in the NFL at the Super Bowl. And at the time I was also, rehearsing for a musical called Bloody Bloody Andrew Jackson that wound up going to Broadway later. I didn't get it. I wasn't in it when it went to Broadway, but at the time,
That's a pretty huge jump in the resume from writing a couple jokes here and there to
writing for a
Oscars.
website to like ghost writing for SNL to then all of a sudden being an Oscars writer. Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah.
So I worked really hard on my Oscar jokes. I got 3 jokes on that show, like 2 intros and 1 monologue joke. And I still remember the monologue joke. It was like, and this year, the number of Best Picture nominees has doubled. When that was announced, Hollywood went wild. We were all running around asking, what's 5 times 2? Cute little joke, family friendly. But, so yeah, I wrote for Steve for some of his music tours and stuff. A couple of years after that, I wrote for Billy Crystal for his Academy Awards. I was very much and very obviously like the token woman on his writing staff, which did not feel great, but he wound up being happy with what I did. And in fact, his manager's assistant told me so at the after party for the Oscars. She said, and she's a woman, she goes, I want you to know that Billy was very pleased with you, even though you were hired as the token woman. Thanks.
I
So,
guess
yeah,
it's kind of a compliment.
yeah. So, oh, and both times I wrote for the Oscars, we got nominated for an Emmy for outstanding writing for a variety special. So I got to go to the Emmys 2 times, which was super fun. And I hope you get to go because it's so surreal. Like, it's like, oh, look, there's Christine Baranski. Whoa, there's, Tom Colicchio from Top Chef. Oh my God, it's Damian Lewis. Look, there's, Vince Gilligan who created
Did you-
Breaking Bad. Like, it's just like
Yeah.
another
Did
surreal
you get to
moment.
walk the red carpet?
Yes.
Nice. That's got to be a surreal
Yes. Well, there are 2
experience.
red carpets. There's legit famous people red carpet, and then there's everyone else red carpet.
Color Is it like maroon or still the
Because
same
they're
red?
quite like there's thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah.
So they
You
can't
walked the
all walk in
crimson
same red
carpet,
carpet. Yeah. So
as
there's
Natalie said.
one with like sort of grandstands along it with like hardcore fans who've clearly been waiting for like 12 hours. And then there's like the other one, which is just like, I don't know who is watching that one. So
Family members.
yeah, presumably. But it is fun.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah.
What did
So,
you
okay. So because I did a lady that I met at the second Oscars that I did is an amazing stand-up comic who's kind of infamous as like the real Elaine from Seinfeld. And she's this woman named Carol Leifer. She is a stand-up comic whose style actually, funnily enough, is like very similar to Jerry Seinfeld's. They went to college together and they're still like really good friends. Like they'll often tour together and they're both incredibly physically relaxed and they do a kind of like slightly repetitive cadence and their work is very clean. So anyway, I met her because she was working on the other side of the Oscar show. Like I was working for the monologue side and she was working on what's called the presenter side, like the show side, which is, okay, here's a little sidebar. Do you know the reason why the banter between the presenters is so stilted and strange sometimes? It's because it starts out as like a comedic bit. And if it's not comedy people who like, know how to make things funny, sometimes the stars get nervous and like the publicists get involved and the managers get involved. And then it gets like futzed with and messed with until you're left with this kind of like soupy morass of anything.
Yeah.
So that's a little inside tidbit for you.
Interesting.
Anyway, so she was like, when this is all over, let's go have lunch. So we did. And she was like, so who reps you? Like, I've never heard your name before. And I was like, well, I mean, I'm mostly an actor in New York. I don't really have like a writing manager. I just have this guy who like sends me on acting auditions. And she was like, oh, we'll fix that. So like a week later, she emails me and she's like, hey, this guy is going to call you. I used to work with him. His name is Lee Kernis. He's at Brillstein, which is like this huge management company in LA. And he goes, she said, I hope you like him, see what you think. I hope it works out. And so I talked to him for like an hour and he's still my manager now. So this was
Good
like
conversation.
2012. And I get in the pipeline to start writing for late night because I was like kind of burnt out on theater. And I was like, okay, like I'm basically like 42 now. I can like basically spend the rest of my career doing like 2, 3, 4 plays that I really enjoy. I'm not going to get famous. I'm not going to like hit it big. This is just my life. And like, maybe I want something a little more. And I was like, maybe I should try to write for a late night show. So I got in the pipeline, I started submitting packets. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew I was getting better. Submitting. And I got close on a couple things, got close on the Daily Show once, got close on some other show. And then I finally hit it in like 2014, in like November of 2014, I got hired as a writer, a full-time staff writer, my first late night gig on the Nightly Show with Larry Wilmore. So that was like dream come true.
Yeah.
And it was really hard. It was stressful. I had to really like just get faster and get less precious about my writing because working on a late night show is like shoveling coal into like a locomotive engine. You just never stop. and you
Yeah.
don't have time to get mad if someone completely rewrites your thing. So it's just like slightly different.
You don't have time to worry about it. You just got to keep going.
Yeah. And like, it doesn't do you any good to get upset. Like TV is a collaborative thing. If you really like, if you want your words to be your words, don't do TV. Be a playwright. Do not become a movie writer. Be a playwright. That being said, I really loved working for Larry. He was a really good boss. Rory Albanese was our showrunner, and he works for Kimmel now. And he's super funny. There were tons of really funny people on that show, including Cord Jefferson, who wrote American Fiction. He was my roomie. He was my office roommate.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
That's
Who else
awesome.
was there? Jordan Carlos, Bobby Gaylor, Tim Seidel, who went on to write for Conan, Corden, and yeah, anyway, I don't think you know any more of those guys. But then I did a bunch of random jobs. I did like punch up for Michael Moore when he did a show on Broadway. I worked for a very short-lived show on TV Land called Throwing Shade. I was the head writer on that. And then I got The Daily Show, and The Daily Show with Trevor Noah. So this is like 2017. And it was hard. I'll be honest, I didn't enjoy working there very much, and Trevor did not like me very much. I never felt really welcome there, or like I meshed with people. It was a really weird vibe, and I left in 2018 after not very long there. And then like the next thing I did was I was the showrunner on TV Land. Well, I'm sorry, I misspoke. I was a showrunner for a pilot. Like I was the sort of creative head of writing this pilot, and I co-wrote it with this actor, singer, hilarious performer named Laura Bell Bundy, who is maybe most well known for Fairly Odd Parents, and she also played Elle Woods in the Broadway version of Legally Blonde, and like got nominated for Tony and all that stuff.
Oh, wow.
She's incredible.
From like
She
the
also
original
was a
Broadway
supporting
cast?
artist. Sorry?
The OBC? The original
what?
Broadway cast?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she was a star. So she had pitched Freeform, this sort of sketch variety hybrid about women's history. And they basically needed somebody because she's not really a comedy writer. So I partnered with her, and we had a blast working together. So I got my first showrunner credit, which was really cool. I wasn't like on set because it was development. So I was like writing the pilot with her and getting notes from the network and writing back and forth. And oh, here's another little advice tidbit. When you get notes from a network, just like say yes. Even if inside you're like, what? Like, that's so dumb, or that is bad. It doesn't do you any good. Just like nod, give it your best shot to make it work, or say you did. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that takes us to about 2020. Then the pandemic happened, the worst. And then in like 2022, I did a crazy random job that fell into my lap. I've been writing, random pilots and stuff all along the way here. But I did a job writing for the hosts of a reality dating show that was on CBS called The Real Love Boat. And it took place on a princess cruise around the Mediterranean. And let me tell you, it was a freaking blast. It was super easy. It was incredibly fun. And I got to go to Athens and Istanbul and Sicily. And the hosts were Jerry O'Connell and Rebecca Ramin. And they're great. So since then, I've just been like writing my own stuff. I finished a pilot in November that's based on a real life woman who was an FBI fugitive for like 20 years, who lived in my neighborhood in St. Paul, like on the same street as my parents.
That's wild.
And she'd been a hardcore, like radical Marxist guerrilla who had done like terrorist stuff in California, but she had like a new fake name and like her whole
Like a whole
family
new
didn't know about
identity.
her secret past. So yeah, I wrote a comedy, a very dark comedy about that, and it's called Mary Jean. So that is a very long-winded intro.
That's amazing. Well, I'm gonna hand it over. If it's okay with
Please.
you, can I hand
I'm
it over
so
to our
sick of
staff?
talking right now.
Well, you're about to have to answer some questions.
That I can handle.
Does anybody have like a
You can
burning
literally ask
question
me
right now?
anything. I'm unshockable and I'm unoffendable.
I actually have like a quick question I'd love to throw at you before we like ask people to like send questions in beforehand. So I think some people may want like 10 seconds to like dig through those and whoever wants to can go. But I'm curious, what is your secret to such a long and happy marriage?
Sometimes just taking one for the team.
It's so real.
That's fair.
It's being able to say, you were right, I was wrong, and I'm sorry, and meaning it.
Yeah.
The thing that kills trust between people is contempt. It's really important to be able to trust your partner emotionally. So if you have something important to say, you have to figure out a way to say it that respects their emotions as much as yours. I think.
It seems to
like
be
I've
working
gone
so
to
far.
therapy a couple times too, which has helped a lot.
There you go. Alrighty. Does anybody have any burning thoughts, questions, rants they have to get out?
I could
Worries, regrets, fears,
Fears?
obsessions,
sonnets.
resentments.
I don't know, Sarah. It
Come
feels
on,
like
y'all.
you've got some grievances you need to air out, Sarah.
There's also some like liked ones. Let's see what are oh
Yeah. Oh, Ella.
Ella's got her hand raised.
Okay, I'm gonna steal a question that someone came up with, but she's not here, but I think it's important to ask. It's from Amelia, and she asks, "What's it like writing for other comedians, and like, do you tailor your jokes to their voice? Because like, yeah."
Well, I've never been a stand-up. I've only ever written for comics, not for myself. I mean, I've written solo shows that were funny, but like when it comes to writing jokes, I've only ever done that for other people. I actually think that my background as an actor has really helped me with that, because when one is doing character work and acting, it's like you sort of see the world through that character's eyes, right? You understand what's important to them, what they need, what they want, how they see things, what they hate, what they love. And it's sort of the same with comics. Like their voices are very specific. So yes, I always try to tailor my jokes to their voice. I actually had a really valuable lesson once. There was a short while where I was working with Lisa Lampanelli, who for a time was like this very successful sort of insult comic. She did a lot of the Comedy Central roasts. And I said, can I write some jokes for you? Because I never really like written in the insult kind of, genre. And she was like, yeah, sure. I was working on a theater thing with her. So I wrote her a few pages of jokes because she was doing this, a roast of Donald Trump actually for Comedy Central. And she like was reading through my stuff. She's like, this is more of a Jeff Ross joke. This is a me joke. That's like a Dennis Miller joke. This is, I like the first half of this and I like the second half of this. So I'm going to put those together. And it was amazing to me and impressive to me how clearly she could identify
Yeah.
those voices. And that was really cool to learn from her. So yeah.
That's awesome. I've got a question that sadly Ben couldn't make it, but I think this is a really interesting question. What was the timeline for seeing a joke go for any of the shows that you've worked on? What was the timeline from seeing a joke go from the writer's room and like conception to actually being told to a live audience? What's the timeline for that workshop?
Well, for nightly like news comedy shows, like you know, like the typical late night show, it can be from like 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. or whenever taping is. You know, sometimes if you write a joke during rewrite, and you know, that's like, you know, 6 p.m., 5:30, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Yeah.
It just depends on when you write the joke during the day. Does it make it all the way through? Or, you know, does yours squeak in under the wire?
Do
Because
jokes
they
that you
needed to
write,
replace something. Sorry?
do jokes that you write later in the day kind of like make it past the cutting room floor a little more?
Uh, mm, they probably have a higher percentage hit rate just because a lot of stuff necessarily just goes through the process of getting thrown out during the day or changed or morphed or whatever. But if something stays in from like your first draft all the way through, that's a very good feeling.
Yeah.
That means that's an anchor joke,
Yeah.
that it was strong and clear enough to sort of carry all the way through the piece, through its many iterations during the day, which is 3, 4, 5 iterations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kavya, I love the question that you put in chat. Can I peer pressure you into asking it, or you can give me like a thumbs down if you don't want to?
No, I can. I'm gonna ask a little bit of like a controversial question.
I
This
love
is
it.
from Elsa. I'm taking someone else's question. If you could fire anyone from comedy, who would you fire?
Ooh.
I know you don't like Trevor Noah.
Trevor Noah. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I know you don't like him.
I mean, I'm not crazy about him personally, but I do respect him. I don't particularly love his brand of comedy. Like for me, it's a little mild
Mhm.
and a little intellectual.
Mm.
I generally like things that are a little more punchy and passionate.
Mhm.
I gotta think about that because I think I would remove someone who's like ubiquitous, but
Mhm.
who's like earning too much money for just being like Maybe
James
James
Corden.
Corden.
Hale.
James Corden.
James Corden.
James Corden at
Yeah.
least is a terrific performer.
That's fair.
Wait, who did he say before? I missed it.
Maybe Joel McHale.
Joel McHale.
He
Okay.
was Jeff Winger on Community.
He ghosted us for an interview once, so I agree with that.
Really? I didn't even know that.
Horrendous.
Yeah, I'm putting him on blast.
Yeah, well, okay, I'll add my blast rate to yours, so it'll be double strength power. No, but he just to me is like,
Yeah.
you know.
Joel,
Also,
if
I'm
you're
very tired of a certain kind of like, I'm a shruggy, slobby, dumb guy. Or like I'm a smart hipster guy who like who adopts the persona of like a dumb, slobby, like shruggy guy. I find that persona just extremely boring.
Yeah.
Not interesting.
What is your stance on Pete Davidson?
I don't get it.
Hmm.
I have seen him do stand-up and he is really funny. Like, I just personally find him extremely ugly. And I know we're not supposed to shame anybody's face or body, and you know, everyone loves everything and everything's great and everyone's so enlightened now. But I personally am just like, ugh. I've never met
I
him.
mean, he makes fun of it himself.
Yes. I mean, he is someone who's, I think, had plenty of chances. And he just keeps putting out the exact same thing. I guess it's what people want, what some people want, not what I want. But yeah, there's
Fair enough.
a huge market for him.
Yeah. He looks like he's from Staten Island, I think is the best way to describe him.
Yeah, 100%.
He just looks like he's from Staten Island.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna take another controversial one from Elsa, and I'm gonna
Ooh,
ask,
yes.
what is your favorite pun ever?
Controversial?
I can't say I love puns.
Totally
To
fair.
me, puns are like a glass of lukewarm water. They're okay.
What's like your
fine.
favorite joke that you've written?
To me, puns are a little bit bloodless. Like I love language and I love messing with it. But puns to me are like sarcasm. They're kind of like second-rate comedy.
Do you have a least favorite pun in that case? Or least favorite joke if no pun comes to mind?
No, because I've forgotten them. Like I don't really pay attention to them.
They're not
And
memorable enough.
I promise you, I'm not trying to be a dickhead about this. I just like,
That's
eh.
Sarah,
Yeah, like they don't make me laugh, so I don't really care.
Yeah.
You know?
that's I only sometimes use them if like the opportunity is just there and it's not even for comedic relief. It's just like I just have to use this opportunity right now, but I'm not expecting anyone to
Yeah, well,
laugh.
I mean, punning is like the sign of an active, curious mind
Yeah.
because you're like Rubik's cubing words together. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like in that way, it's sort of like crossword puzzles.
Yeah.
A lot of crossword puzzles have pun-like clues. So I don't think you have bad taste if you like puns. There's actually this guy, Matthew Broussard, who's a stand-up comic who does this thing. It's an app, and I want to say that it's called like Monday Pun Day or something like that. I can't remember. Anyway, his last name is Broussard. He's in New York, I think. He
It
might
sounds
be.
like a Conan bit.
Yeah, his name is Matthew Broussard. He's like very pun oriented. And so is Mike Kaplan, MYQ Kaplan with a K.
Mm.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, I guess we'll go on to the next question.
sure.
Sarah just messaged me and told me she has laryngitis, but she has a question and I'll be her proxy.
No,
How
Sarah, you have to yell it out. You can't use a proxy.
do you know sign?
No.
Sarah, we're docking your pay if you don't. We're docking your non-existent pay if you don't read this out loud.
Um,
I'm just messing with you. What is it?
you want to mouth it or something? How does the
Sign
hu
language.
how does the humor scene differ in big cities? E.g. New York and LA.
Is that you throwing your voice? This is very funny to me. I don't really know what it's like in comparison to a small town because basically I moved here from like a not that small town. I mean, St. Paul has like a few 100,000 people, so it's not like dinky. But I wasn't really in the comedy scene when I was in high school. I just did like plays at my high school. And then I came to New York and I've basically lived here ever since with like a few months here and there, like when I was doing a play in like New Haven or DC or San Diego or jobs in LA, So I don't know. But I will tell you that there are more people doing this in the big cities than in small towns. And if you are in a small town, you run the risk of thinking that you are the best when you probably are not. You know, that idea of big fish in a small pond, it's very real, especially when it comes to stand up. Which is usually why people wind up moving for love of the craft because you want to be around the people who are the best, right? It's like when you play sports, if you play against people who are amazing, you get better. And
Just
play
by
with
just
people
by
who are
proxy.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I came to New York because this was the theater mecca of the world, as far as I was concerned. And I got much better. And I don't think I would be as good of an actor had I stayed in the Twin Cities. And I certainly would not have been able to see the breadth, the enormous breadth and depth of theater that I've been able to see here in a smaller place. So I guess I'm advocating moving to a bigger place. Also, you'll probably feel more free
Yeah.
because the bigger a place you live, the less anybody cares what you're doing, which can be lonely, but it can also be liberating. Maybe both.
That's getting a little too much for me.
Deal with it.
Yeah. All right, man. It's like I work for the Daily Show.
You can't control me.
Man, I'm sorry. Um, so a question that I personally have for you is what is the worst piece of advice you have ever gotten in terms of like working in comedy?
Ooh. This is the year of the woman.
What does that mean?
It was like women are hot this year in comedy. Women are never hot in comedy. Only by busting one's fucking ass does one become successful in comedy. There's no trend of women. There's no such thing. Yeah. That's what I would say.
Fair enough. Amen.
Very fair.
And then Natalie, do you want to take our final question for the night?
I would love to. It'd be my honor.
Ooh.
My next question is, if you could be any kitchen appliance, what would you be and when?
What would I be and when?
Yes.
When?
Ooh. Gosh, I really love to cook. So this is like such a, why I love cooking? Because like the industry of like creativity is like such a nightmare. And like so many dreams are crushed for just like such preposterous reasons all the time. But like when you have your ingredients, you do everything that you're supposed to do. You generally turn out with something pretty great. And you can hold it in your hands and you can eat it. You don't have to. You could just hold it in your hands like some freaking weirdo. But you can eat it. and
Cooking
make
is
yourself
my
happy.
favorite hobby, but I can't do it because I'm in a dorm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks.
We have
Well,
at my dorm, we have a fire drill about every week because people don't know how to put water in ramen. So
Oh my God.
cooking has been
God help
limited to us.
Dum-dums. Oy. Okay. You know what? I'm really inspired by this question.
House
We're
tour.
going on an adventure.
Oh, you know what I would be? This thing. My citrus squeezer.
I like that one.
Yeah, because you know why? Because you squeeze it really hard, you get every last drop of juice out, and then the peel is like a little dome, and you just pop it out. It goes, so satisfying.
I
It's
love
also,
that.
it seems
And
like a way to
when
get
would I
like
do
aggression
that?
out.
When I'm making lemon bars, which are a classic Midwestern dessert,
Mm.
sweet, tart, crumbly, just like me.
Much like myself.
Yay!
I like that one.
Alrighty. Well-
I hope I got to answer all your questions. I'm worried that I blabbed about myself for too long and hogged up all the question time.
No, that
No,
was
it was awesome.
Okay, good.
This is awesome. Does anybody else have any sort of like final burning questions that you have to get out into the universe?
I have one.
Please.
So kind of going back to the Pete Davidson thing a little bit. Have you heard of Matt Rife?
Of Matt,
Rife,
how do you spell his last name?
Rife.
Yeah, I've heard he's like some handsome guy or something. I don't know. I saw a picture of him and I
Not
was like,
really. Not really.
He's just got a big
saying all
jawline.
that.
Yeah.
He's been under fire recently for having like a misogynistic Netflix special or something too.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you've like heard of him.
I think I saw an article about him in the Times or like Vulture or something, but I honestly, I don't care. Like, I don't care if someone has a misogynistic special. I don't care. Like, when people make provocative jokes, they're doing it for a reason. And it's usually not the reasons that like finger waggers think. Like, I tend to be more on the give the benefit of the doubt to the artist side than I am like, don't make jokes about this, that, or the other. Like, if you play with fire, you will probably get burned sometimes. That's okay. Be ready for blisters.
Yeah.
If
I
you
like
know what you're doing, you know what you're doing. Like Shane Gillis is like that.
Yeah.
He does provocative stuff. I mean, a lot of comics do. I mean, Dave Chappelle does deliberately provocative stuff. I also think he's crossed over into this like weird persecution arrogance thing that I just don't understand. And like his new stuff is not at all as funny to me as like his old stuff on like Chappelle's show.
It used to be really good though.
To my mind is like pure genius. But yeah, I mean, to me, like Anthony Jeselnik is like way better looking than him. And Anthony Jeselnik does really, really provocative jokes, like super dark. He has like probably like the strictest ethos of any comedy person that I've ever known. I mean, not that I know him, but like he talks at great length about like technical stuff about comedy. He's like very, very
Yeah.
passionate about like the art and the craft of it and like the aesthetics of comedy.
Yeah.
He had a show on Comedy Central actually where he would like interview people. Maybe they still have it on their in their digital archive somewhere. It's worth looking up.
Do you think comedy is like an acquired skill, or is it something that like some people are like kind of with athletics where like some people are born being naturally gifted but can get better, or
I do think it's a craft that is only like if you've got the spark, then you can only ever get better with craft. If you haven't got it, all the craft in the world's not going to help. You know, in that case, like be a producer or like be an entertainment lawyer or do something where you can help people.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely.
Yeah. So, you know, my thing is like everyone usually finds the thing that they're supposed to be doing. And like, I love that y'all are finding your passion for comedy right now. It's great. And I love that you're doing Milking Cat. That's such an insane title. I love it. It makes me think of like milking a cat's nipples.
That's the it's a joke from, what is it? Meet the Parents.
Oh,
Yeah.
Meet the Parents.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Or the
Such a great movie.
original, the creator, Benji, is a massive fan of Meet the Parents apparently, and decided to name the website off of it.
Oh my God, when the urn falls on the floor. Oh. So good. So
It's
good.
great. Well, alrighty.
Alrighty.
Thank you so much for talking to us. It has been
Well,
absolutely
thank you
incredible.
for inviting me. I'm honored to be in such august company. And I think you all had really great questions. I wish you all the very best and just be bold, go for it, take risks above all. Because only like when you're young and you're finding your voice, you got to take big swings to find out what you can hit. Okay? Promise me
Yeah.
to be bold, be brave, take big swings.
Will do.
Okay?
Will do.
Well,
Yes, ma'am. Alrighty. Thank you so much. This has been awesome.
You betcha. Anytime.
Oh, should we do
Awesome.
a picture for the
Oh,
picture?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
How do I have to screenshot it?
I think anyone could screenshot it, but
I'm not smart enough to screenshot this.
I do duck lips like
I could do it. But then I
I
can't
feel
like,
like
okay,
I can do it, Natalie. It's okay.
are you sure, Ella? I don't want to take away your posing privileges.
all right,
No,
everybody
I
go
can do it. Trust me.
like
Okay.
duck lips. Okay.
You got it?
Awesome.
Oh, did we do duck lips or are we doing? Oh, I don't know if I got that.
I did. I made
I
it
think
very
we were
clear.
all doing variations of
Should we do another one?
Should we like all
Yeah.
agree with consensus?
Do the
can
what?
we do like as awkward as possible? Like
I can count down whenever you guys want. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Okay, that looks adorable.
perfect. Perfect. Alrighty. Well, I am going to stop recording here.